Well, if you can just take a snapshot of what's on social media on the Ukrainian side to give a flavour of how many young Ukrainians are responding to those extraordinary scenes that we've just witnessed in the Oval Office, it's an outpouring of support, actually, for Volodymyr Zelenskyy for standing up to Donald Trump's language, berating him in front of television cameras, as you've said, accusing him of gambling with World War III. JD Vance then telling him he needs to be more thankful. That really uncomfortable scene of this wartime president, his arms folded, trying to get a word in edgeways and then being really sort of shouted down, trying to sort of stand his ground and give the reality from the ground here in Ukraine, but only to be told that he shouldn't tell the president of America how he should be feeling. I think beyond the drama and the theatrics and the extraordinary scenes that we've just witnessed, there is a much even more serious point to be made here, and that is that for Ukraine and for its European allies, this is an absolute disaster. The only winner here is Russia. You can imagine Vladimir Putin watching that bust-up in the White House with glee, hoping that maybe Donald Trump, now angered, furious with what he regards as Mr. Zelenskyy not being sufficiently respectful and for answering him back in his own seat of power, that maybe he would then switch off more than just this minerals deal, if that indeed is no longer, and switch off military support to Ukraine, this idea of any kind of further help. And that would be absolutely critical for this, a disaster for this country, because American support is so critical in terms of the military support, the intelligence support that this country needs to continue fighting this war. And you can only imagine that before Volodymyr Zelenskyy took this trip to the White House, his allies will have been coaching him on how to deal with the US president. It will be no surprise that Donald Trump had a few sharp words for the Ukrainian president, and I imagine his allies would have been trying to coach him not to rise to it, to try to diffuse that kind of tension. But it does, well, clearly Volodymyr Zelenskyy clearly felt that he had no choice but to try to defend himself, and then it just escalated into this horrific scene.
Yeah, and Deborah, as you're speaking in the last few moments, a senior White House official has said, confirmed what we knew, that press conference with Zelenskyy has been cancelled and the deal has not been signed. That rare earth deal has not been signed. And the senior White House official going on to say it is up to Ukrainians if it can be rescheduled while Zelenskyy is still in the country. So maybe all is not lost, but clearly things have ended disastrously compared to what the plan was. What does this mean now for President Zelenskyy? I mean, do you think his job, his future as president, is now under threat? Well, I mean, he obviously needs to have a relationship with the White House. That's for sure. But if that's impossible, this is a sovereign nation. Just because he falls out with Donald Trump shouldn't mean that his job is in jeopardy. But, Mr. Trump has made no secret of he thinks he wants to have elections here. But, I think that's kind of the crucial point is the choreography of all this has been completely thrown under a bus by what we've just witnessed over the last few minutes. Ever since Donald Trump won the election, he has made clear that one of his key foreign policy goals is to strike a peace deal in Ukraine to end the war. He has made these overtures to Vladimir Putin. You can't begin to imagine the kind of the way that Donald Trump spoke to Volodymyr Zelenskyy, him using that same kind of tone with the Russian president, and that as well for Ukraine's leader is really hard to stomach, and clearly his anger has bubbled over in what we've seen just now. But in terms of what's been going on since Western allies have known about Donald Trump's desire for peace, they've been working really hard to try to keep the White House on side
decide to support Ukraine into the long term. That minerals deal was critical for that. It was all about trying to lock in American investment, American boots in the form of miners on the ground to help secure this country. If that's not signed, then everything else is put into jeopardy, including the British and French plans for a peacekeeping force on the ground to try to secure long-term peace.